How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Bodacious Rant with Bern and Rye. I'm really excited to get this review going just because this is another movie I didn't know what to expect, but man, I think this may be best movie of the year, depending on which one of you asking me or Bern or anybody, really. And we're talking about the latest film from the acclaimed director Paul Thomas Anderson, and that is One Battle After Another, starring Leo DiCaprio, Tiana Taylor. I'm sorry, I don't know how to say her name exactly. And then the newcomer Chase Infinity, Sean Penn, and Benicio del Toro, who's always just a gem. But this is a spoiler-free review. Oh my god, I can't talk. So don't worry about it. We're not going to get super into it. So if you do happen to like the video, or if you like the movie especially, feel free to give us that thumbs up to show your support, ring the bell for notifications, and of course subscribe, just because I always appreciate you guys for that. Also, if you haven't already, we just posted our Alien Earth review for the latest FX series, so check that out, but that one has spoilers. But yeah, so this one, I would say it's a bit of a dramedy, just like drama comedy, just because it does have some serious moments, but overall it's a hilarious ride where Leo DiCaprio and Tiana Taylor, they are part of a revolutionary group, and due to law enforcement cracking down on them, specifically Tiana Taylor's character, and then the villain was Sean Penn. He takes his baby girl and is on the run from the law, essentially. And yeah, so I mean, that's pretty much as simple as I can make it without getting too much into it. And also the trailers do a good job of like broad stroking it. So yeah, I've never really seen any Paul Thomas Anderson movies, not that I could think of off the top of my head. Like, I never saw The Master or Licorice Pizza that came out a few years ago. I know those are really well done and got good ratings, but but man, I'm definitely a fan now. This is easily one of the funniest movies I've seen in a minute. Such great acting. Leo DiCaprio and Benicio are just hilarious in their own ways, and it's almost like they didn't really need help doing these characters, because it's almost like a mix of some of their best versions of themselves. And the newcomer Chase Infinity, who plays Leo DiCaprio's daughter, wow, she definitely has a bright future in Hollywood if she keeps picking her roles right and stuff. But Bern, what did you think about this movie?
You know, there are a few movies recently that come to mind that sort of are emblematic of when a director is like fully within their bag, and the ones that come to mind are, Tarantino with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Denis Villeneuve with the two Dune movies, Ryan Coogler with Sinners, and this is definitely one of them where I think this is just Paul Thomas Anderson in his bag. I mean, I am a Paul Thomas Anderson fan. I've seen a lot of his movies. I think There Will Be Blood is probably one of the best modern classics that we've gotten, and I think this movie is right up there with it. I think this movie is just so emblematic of the times, and he's in interviews, Paul Thomas Anderson has talked about him writing this movie over the past 20 years, and it couldn't have come out at a more poignant time, considering all the subject matter that it discusses. But man, it's just one of those movies where, like, as I was watching it, I was just like, man, I'm just glad movies are a thing. Like, it's just one of those movies that reaffirms like your love for movies and filmmaking, and that's just probably the highest honor that you can give a movie, I think. As you mentioned, the performances here across the board, with Leonardo DiCaprio, Benicio del Toro, Sean Penn gives one of the best performances he's given in the last 20 years, and newcomer Chase Infinity just completely embody these characters and bring them to life, where this movie from almost beginning to end is just like one long chase sequence, and there's hardly any room or time to breathe, but in the moments that you do, you get a lot from these characters, and just the way PTA uses the camera in conjunction with the score and the cinematography. It's almost like you're just propelled from beginning to end, from moment to moment, to set piece, and it's almost like too much to handle. But just the way that it's presented and it's written, and the way that the characters are sort of brought to life by these actors, it's a masterstroke from beginning to end. There really is no other way to put it. I was just floored by just all the filmmaking qualities that you can only get from someone who's been doing this at a high level for a really long time.
that's high praise, Bernie. And in all seriousness, that really is. Because I know you saw it first, and I saw what you in our private conversation. He already told me what he thought of it. I was like, wow. I just hope I don't get disappointed, because I feel like I do that for Burns. Sometimes I may overhype stuff, or I hope he likes it as much as I did. And of course, if you've seen our previous reviews, especially recent ones, he and I do disagree here and there, but not in a bad way or anything. It's just sometimes movies just vibe with us differently. But again, I definitely want to keep watching more of his movies. I do need to see There Will Be Blood. Just because this was so well done across the board. The dramatic scenes hit. The comedy is hilarious. And surprisingly, a good amount of action. I was not expecting that, just because I feel like Paul Thomas Anderson definitely comes off a little more artsy than anything. But this movie didn't feel like that. It is a little long. There was kind of a point, like I would say, 3/4 of the way through, a little bit before the climax, I was like, okay, this is dragging on a bit. But even then, almost all of it is great. Like, this is one of those movies that you definitely don't want to go to the bathroom during, because then it's like you'll kind of miss some good dialogue or a funny moment or something cool. And yeah, especially again, like Sean Penn, Bernie put it perfectly, that easily one of the best villains this year, up there with like Jack O'Connell's Remick from Sinners, and I'm blanking right now on villains right now. Yeah, never mind. I would say, because Sinners is still my number one movie, but depending how the rest of this year plays out, and if I do rewatch this movie again, which I plan to, it's a toss-up just because it's so freaking good. And because also the mind-boggling part, not only with the comedy, just the action was very on par with like movies like Sicario, Zero Dark 30, very tactical, serious movies. So I think that's just great that the director, like Paul Thomas Anderson, PTA as Bernie called him, was able to kind of masterfully direct those, because the cinematography, almost every scene is just chef's kiss, just mwah. So with all that being said, I am, this is probably a lot, but I'm going to give it a hard 5 out of 5. I think this is easily one of the best movies of the year. It's definitely up in my top 2 right now, so we'll see how the rest of the year plays out. But highly, highly, highly recommend it, especially in IMAX, because I felt like almost all of it was filmed in IMAX when I saw it last night, but I just got caught up in it, so I didn't keep track.
Mm-hmm. It's shot in VistaVision, which is it's a film format that's hasn't really been used since the 60s. I think the only movie other than this one was The Brutalist, I think, that came out last year, that is shooting in that format. But it is a big screen format, so it fits well in the IMAX screens, and that's why it's being projected in IMAX and 70 millimeter. I mean, it just goes to show that, I mean, this is the biggest budget that PTA has had to work with. I think this is something over $100 million, where, as you mentioned before, his movies aren't really like that. They're very smaller, more character-focused movies where there really isn't a lot of plot to them. You're just kind of following these people in their journeys and their character arcs, and the plot just kind of unfolds in that way. And this movie is a little bit that, but like to a greater extent, where we're really following these 3 characters in their journey throughout this movie, and the plot just kind of unfolds in this rapid fire, almost insane way. But as you mentioned, I think the comedy beats really, really hit here, and they really do need to be hit, because a lot of the subject matter that this movie touches on is pretty morbid stuff, and so if you can't laugh in certain moments, it would just be a very bleak experience. But he knows how to inject those moments of comedy, and Leonardo DiCaprio, with the roles he's been taking as of late, has really leaned into that, so it's fun to see that from him. And they mentioned Sean Penn. There's a darkness, there's a weirdness to him, and there's a funniness to him that just all gets wrapped up in this, what I like to refer to as a ball of veins of a character that is just, you can't look away from him. And I wouldn't be surprised if he gets nominated or walks away with the Oscar for this performance, because yeah, it was fully like embodied in the best ways possible. Yeah, that just goes to say like that for everything. I mean, the directing here was great, the writing was great, the cinematography was gorgeous to look at, and the score by Johnny Greenwood was just very experimental, and just felt like it propelled the movie forward, much like how Ludwig Göransson's score did for Sinners. And yeah, this one is up there for me. I think for me comfortably, this probably sits at the number 1. So for me, it can't be anything other than a 5 out of 5 for me. I told you this earlier, and I hope I'm not like jumping the gun too far and saying that I think this is probably one of the more emblematic movies of this current generation. I would say this sort of like encapsulates the 2020s, and we're halfway through them, but I feel like if you were to pick a movie that was emblematic of the times, this would probably be it. If anyone like from the future or from another from another planet were to say what kind of movie represents the 2020s, I think this one would probably be it. It just touches on so many things in such a great way that I don't think any lesser director could have handled it as good. So yeah, the 5 out of 5 for me. One of the best movies of the year, probably one of the best movies I've seen in a very long time. It's definitely up there. And going in, I had been hearing the praise, and like you, I was apprehensive, but he just knocked it out of the park for me. So yeah, I had a great time with this one.
Yeah, this one and Sinners were those movies I was like, oh, I hear it, but I don't want to get brokenhearted by it. But man, I'm glad that this is just one of those few movies that did not disappoint. So hard 5 out of 5 for me and Byrne. Byrne may have declared it for the rest of the year. We'll have to see how that plays out for him as a number one.
Still
for him.
A lot of good things to come. So it's been such a wealth of riches. I feel like 2025 has been in terms of the movie and TV landscape.
Oh, 100%. This is definitely a solid year compared to last year. So, yeah. For those, like I said, for those of you who happen to have already seen it like we have or plan on watching it this weekend, come on back. Let us know what you thought of it. Really appreciate you all again. And we got more stuff coming out. So, as always, until stay bodacious and keep on ranting for us.
Absolutely. Everybody be good, be safe, and as always, we'll catch y'all on the next one.